I'm Warren Hills, and I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer for Western Michigan University, and it's my pleasure to invite you to our health plan healthcare update this morning. One of the things I'd like to do is introduce our guests. We will have guest presenters. So from Siegel, and Siegel is our benefits consultant and partner for most of our different kinds of paid benefits that we have. I have Ted Makowitz, the Senior Vice President, and I have Ashley Terry. And Ted's going to be presenting on our health plan, our structure, because we're self-insured, how the economics work, and kind of a status of the health of our health plan for the last few years. And then I have Tanny Moore from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Tanny will be presenting on sharing some tools that can help you get the most from your health care plan and trying to minimize your out-of-pocket costs. So we'll roll the two presentations. Ted will present, Tanny will present, and then there'll be opportunities for some questions related to the subject and their presentations afterwards. And as you've done these before with us, what we'll do is have folks walk around and bring the mics to you so that you can make sure we hear your questions and get a chance to project them. And the other thing too, remember we have an overflow room. I'm told there are 40 some or more over there too. So while their technology is working, we want to be mindful, make sure that they have an opportunity to go as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ted.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Warren. It's nice to actually see a lot of you again. I've seen many of you guys before. I've actually given a similar talk at the expo a couple of times, so some of you may have at least seen some of it. Just a real quick background about me. Warren was kind enough to say I do work for Siegel Consulting, and I've got a great team of people behind me that help at Siegel. We've got communications people and actuaries and compliance officers. So there's actually a whole team of us that support Western as they try to figure out the benefits world. So talk louder, okay? I can do that. Sorry, I'm not used to using a mic, so you might have to remind me that a couple of times. But I thought I'd like to point some things out with a pointer too. So, but thanks. I'm gonna give a high view of benefits, and then as Warren said, Tanya's going to get into kind of the nuts and bolts. So as you can see here, I'm going to talk about what it means to have self-insured benefits. I'm going to talk about the current state, which is really kind of a look at the marketplace, just so you can kind of see those external factors that Western's dealing with as they try to build you guys a great benefit plan. I'm going to show you some benchmarking, because we do compare your plan to other institutions, other groups of organizations that offer plans to make sure that what they offer you is fair, fairly priced, a good benefit design, and those types of things. We'll look at some figures. What do you spend? What's the enrollment look like? And then we'll get into some costs, like what do the premiums look like? What have they changed year over year? And I'll kind of wrap it up with that. And then like I said, I'll pass it over to Tani, and she'll get really into kind of how you navigate your health plans, the PPO and the HMO, and different products and services that can make you guys better consumers. So just in case people don't know, this is just to ground people. Warren mentioned this just a little bit about what does it mean to be self-funded. If you think about it, kind of liken this to your car insurance. So Western's big enough and they cover enough people in their health plans that they basically pay for healthcare claims as they come in. So higher, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, they take the risk of what those costs are going to be on an annual basis. If you're insured, it's just like your auto insurance. Western could pay the same amount on a monthly basis, right? So they know exactly what the costs are. There's less variability in that. But then the other company, like a AAA or whoever it might be, or Blue Cross Blue Shield in this case, they take the risk. But there's reasons why Western chooses to be self-funded, and some of those are on this sheet. One, if you're fully insured, they don't have a lot of options in terms of the plan design and some of the programs that are offered, some of those that Tanya will get into in a little bit. Plus, if you think about it, all those insurance companies, they make money. So there's state of Michigan taxes. They make a profit to take that risk, right? If they're going to take risk, they want to make something for it. And so it actually makes sense for Western, because of their size, to just pay those healthcare claims as they come in. Now, they do something called stop-loss insurance, which means that if any one of you or anybody that's covered by the plan has costs over $600,000, they pay insurance for that. So they do pay a small amount per person per month, just in case there's super high cost claims, and I'll talk about those in a minute because there's more and more every day, to make sure that the costs aren't crazy variable. Because if they are, then your costs that you pay on a monthly basis would also be more variable, and so they do that to kind of control the flow of those costs, okay? And it's really normal. Like we said here, anyone over 1,000 members usually does self-fund themselves. So this chart's important to kind of ground people in terms of why it's important, why it's difficult for Western to manage healthcare costs on an annual basis. And I've been doing this 32 years, and so a lot of these things have been there for 32 years. I'll talk about the trends in a minute, and healthcare trends they're difficult. And so there's things that happen that we can't control, and there's things that we can try to control. For instance, if you think about, and we all hear about, healthcare costs are going up a lot. It's a national issue, it's a state issue, it's a company issue, it's a university issue, it's our issue, right, in terms of what we pay. There's reasons why it goes up, and that's what this chart kind of gets into. So there's things like medical inflation, right? If you go to get an MRI at Corewell down the road, whatever, it's $1,000. Well, next year it's $1,200. Your healthcare costs go up. There's not a lot the university can do to control that cost. There's all new treatments, therapies, right? There used to be x-rays and then MRIs and then PET scans, right? All those things cost more money. Healthcare costs go up. Great for people, right? So there's that side of the equation too, but costs go up, and the university has to think about that. There's lots of other reasons that are kind of systematic-wide, like provider consolidation. So Spectrum Health down the road used to be one of the least expensive health systems in the state, which is great, west side of the state, low cost. Well, they merged with Beaumont on the east side, so now when they negotiate with Blue Cross Blue Shield, right, they can ask for more reimbursement, which is what they call it, which are those fees. So again, there's just lots of reasons why costs are an issue that the university has to pay attention to. And again, I try to think of it as what can I control, what can't I control, right? I can try to negotiate a better contract with the pharmacy PBM so that the drugs cost less. That helps keep your trend down. But I can't control if Spectrum's charging more for an MRI. So that's how we try to help the university manage stuff. Now this chart kind of says it all to a certain extent. Besides the blip for COVID, these are healthcare trends since 2016. And, if you just kind of take out the blip and look at it in general, right? They're going up and they're bad. So if you look at just last year alone, and I'll get into some of the detail of this, that 11.4%, that's what pharmacy trend is right now. And if you look at the next line below that, the 7.9%, that's medical trend. So you have to kind of average those. There's more spend in medical, and I'll show you that in a second. But even if you said it averages out to 9%, 10%, that means the costs to the university for healthcare are going up 10%. Okay, and that's a lot of that stuff that we can't control. So that's important to know, and I liken it to, there's just not many organizations that are growing 10% a year, right? Or the profit margin's 10%. So, and it's been this issue again for 30 years. Healthcare's taken a bigger piece of the pie in terms of a budget. This is the kind of stuff that makes the university have to sit back and think, okay, well, how should the benefits be designed? How can we share the cost, right? Whether it's point of service or whether it's through your premiums. And then how does it affect the rest of the budget, right? I mean, hiring, raises, everything else. So that's why healthcare is such a big issue. And again, it's a national thing. It's not a Western thing. But that's why you hear about it on the news every day. People, companies, universities, they're really trying to figure this out, right? Especially with the trend getting worse. So just another layer down, like what's really causing some of this. Some of it, and again, some of these things are great things. For instance, pharmacy. You can see there's these things called GLP-1s that are out now. They're drugs. They're primarily for diabetes. There are some that are just for weight loss, but they are being, the indications for these drugs are increasing every day. So now there's drugs that were for rheumatoid arthritis, but they're also for eczema, right? So And that's what the pharmaceutical manufacturers do. They figure out where the drugs work, how much they cost, and expand the use of them. But these drugs, if you look at the first bullet or the last one, specialty drugs, and specialty drugs are just drugs that need some sort of special handling. Mostly new, though. They are things that need refrigeration, or your doctor has to inject you, so they're pretty tricky. These are extremely expensive. Think about, just turn on your TV, watch the commercials, right? Where I think we're only the second country in the entire world that actually advertises the expensive drug therapies to people. And it's interesting because these drugs cost between $100 and $2,000. Some of the more expensive specialty drugs can cost $3,000 a month. It's not uncommon now that you see people with $1 million treatments. So when we get to the dollars and cents of this, that's important to think about. So this is what the university battles with, right? What should we cover? What shouldn't we cover? We need to make sure it's great coverage for everybody, but is it the least expensive option? Should you have a step therapy before you get into these? This is the reason why trends are what they are. And again, great stuff for people. Again, hepatitis C, it was a lifelong condition a few years ago that would cost $300,000 a year in pharmaceuticals. Well, now pharmaceuticals cost $300,000, but it's curable, right? So there's great things going on, just real expensive things going on. I'll talk a little bit about your benefits. This is where you guys will probably understand some of this stuff. This is just how your benefits are structured. I show these charts just because I want to show you kind of where, first of all, how it looks and how it works, but second of all, that it's normal in a lot of ways. It's real typical these days that there's a deductible, right? First dollar out of pocket, then there's a co-insurance, you pay a percentage up to an out-of-pocket max. Okay, so that's the first way that you pay for care when you go. We call this the point of service stuff, right? Point of service cost sharing, then there's your premium sharing. Oh, let me go back to that. Always copays. There's some logic to these. PCP office visits are less because people really should have a PCP to get their preventive care, and so they direct your care. And then specialist is a little bit more because they want you to think a little bit more before you go to a specialist if your PCP didn't tell you to go there. And then things like online visits, again, easy, want people to utilize it. Urgent care, want you to utilize it if you have to. But think about that versus emergent care. And then emergent care is obviously $150. Very typical benefit design here. Same thing on the prescription drug side in terms of it being typical. Use generics whenever you can. Like I said, $10. Some of those are less than that. Whereas you get up to those specialty drugs, they can be thousands of dollars. But there's a reason, both because of the price, but also the preferred brand, non-preferred brand. Blue Cross Blue Shield puts together what they call a formulary. It's your list of drugs. They do their job to steer people into drugs where they get a better deal by volume. The copays here help people make decisions. It also helps the cost of drugs overall for Western. Very typical design here as well. Dental, again, typical, like preventive, free, no co-insurance. Everyone should go right once or twice a year. Actually, there's lots of research that show if you don't go once or twice a year, there's a direct correlation to your medical expenses going up. So your teeth are tied in a direct way to other medical conditions. But then things like fillings, extractions, braces, and other things, they cost more. You're out of your annual maximum for orthodontia and your annual maximum are actually higher than I see when benchmarking you guys, and I'll get into some of that in 1 second. And then your vision benefits they're very good with your exams every 12 months and then your $500 allowance. Most of the time, the vision benefit looks more like the dental one, where there's cost sharing, and the more you use, the more you pay. This gives you guys actually a little bit more flexibility, so that's a good thing. Now, here, this is what I was talking about earlier. We benchmark. Okay, so we don't just tell Western what to do in terms of what their benefit design should look like and how much they should charge. We actually compare Western to lots of different benchmarks. Much up there, this is, the Michigan Universities Coalition on Health. It's almost every other university in the state of Michigan. Not U of M, they're unique in lots of different ways. And not some of the smaller faith-based or private institutions, but all of the Easterns, Westerns, Grand Valleys, Wayne States, Northern, Michigan Tech, Ferris, Saginaw Valleys are all in here. So we look at the annual cost. What do you cost on average? That one's a little tricky because it's very geographic. We look at what costs are for a single person, two-person family, and how do those compare to much? By the way, MAC is the Mid-American Conference. The Mercer benchmarks are just more of a national consulting firm benchmark. But as you can see, again, real typical in terms of how the single two-person family, great single rate, great family rate, great two-person rate. The family's more competitive. It's common that people shift more. In lots of universities, they pay the most towards healthcare towards the individual, and that's why you see the single rates lower. And then, of course, you see the percentages on the bottom. That's the percentage of healthcare of the total cost that you pay by those tiers. So again, as you look at this, you compare favorably, and we do this every year. And by the way, this is a high-level thing. Our actuaries look at it, but it's a moving target. This is 2024 data. It's already 2025, and unfortunately, things aren't going in the right direction in terms of cost. I'll get into that in just a little bit more in the next couple of slides. So on a plan, we also look at this on a plan design basis. How do you compare? The relative value is just if you had a dollar, like your benefit design is a 1, how much do those other plan designs pay in comparison to Western? So you can see you're really close to the much in MAC. Your benefit design itself is about the same. Your deductible is a little bit higher, but your coinsurance is on the lower end, and your out-of-pocket maximum is a little bit lower as well. So that's a good thing. I won't talk too much about out-of-network because Blue Cross Blue Shield has about 97% of the doctors in the state of Michigan in their network. So it's hard to go out-of-network. A little bit about your enrollment. So you can see this is all staff. This is active in COBRA. So there's 1,900 people roughly in the PPO and about 320 people in the HMO. These are pretty stable. You can see over the course of the last 4 years. That's just to give you a little perspective on how many people are in here. And then this is the university cost. So this is important for people to know. Just at a glance, there's your $50 million, right? That's roughly what the university pays on an annual basis. It's not roughly; it's pretty much on. But it also shows the breakout, right? So what do they spend on medical expenses? And it's always the same, right? Spend the most on medical, second most on pharmacy, third most on dental, then you go vision, and then there's other administrative costs. So we look at this. This has retirees in it too, by the way, because you can see the 3259 is the total people under the plan. We look at it on a total dollar basis, and then we look at it on a per member per month basis. That just helps us equalize it to see if, is the cost increase just because costs are increasing, or is it because you cover more people? So we look at it both ways just to help kind of stabilize how we look at it. This is the PPO. It's just to, again, show some relativity. The breakout's the same, but you can see how much you spend in the PPO. So the vast majority of it is the $35 million is in the PPO. And this is where we spend the bulk of our attention, right? If we can control what we can control, we spend our time trying to make sure the PPO is the plan, and we just manage it as well as we can. The HMO is a lot smaller. There's 320 people in it. It's growing. And you'll see the premiums in a second. So it's a good thing it's growing. It's right for some people. Tani might tell you why and how people make that decision. But again, the numbers here are a little bit more variable just because it's a lot smaller of a plan. Now, this is important to people, right? We went through what you guys all pay at the point of service. This gets to the premium piece of it. The premium is what you pay on a monthly basis, and these are averages of lots of different groups at the university, so you can't tie this right to your paycheck if somebody was going to call me out in the Q&A. So you can see where you were in 2021, where you're at now. You can see a percentage, and you saw those percentages earlier, right? This is the percentage of the total cost that you pay, but you can see how much those have increased. And so the one thing I notice at a glance is this. You saw the healthcare trends at the beginning of this. This is what your premiums have increased on an annual basis. That's really good. Okay, that's good. If the average trend in the nation's 9%, unless you cost shift, which you could do, that's a really good percentage on an annual basis. So I think the university's doing a good job, like I said, stabilizing things, making sure that no one wants the cost increases, I get them too, but that they're reasonable on an annual basis. Same thing on the HMO side. So just at a glance, note the premiums though. Everybody should look at the premiums to see if they make sense for them, because it is a lot less on a monthly basis. And actually the networks overlap quite a bit in Michigan between the HMO and the PPO, and the percentages all look good. And this is just another comparator of rates. Okay, so this is, again, if you look at the first two columns, this is how these are averages, again, to the page before. And these are just Mercer. Now, these guys have cost shifted a lot more in terms of the point of service stuff, but you still compare great. And so I think that's a testament to your team here. They look at, again, they do the benchmarking. They have us doing very aggressive things to control the costs. But we thought this would be helpful this morning, just to give you a little kind of an overview. This is what the university deals with as we try to, again, have Western offer a great plan to recruit world-class faculty and staff, right? Still keep it reasonable without huge spikes in it, and make sure that you compare to all your peers. So that's my piece. I am going to hand it over to Tani. There's a lot of time for Q&A though, and so we'll be here for about 20 minutes after that, and then I'll be in the lobby too. So if people do want to ask me about this, I can get into more details about it. But I appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, it's very nice. Good morning back. Thanks, Ted. Again, my name's Tani Moore. I'm with Blue Cross Blue Shield. I've actually been there for 21 years. I'm new to the Western family, though, so I love being here. I was actually here on Saturday for the game. I will admit, though, I'm not a morning person, so I might not be as eloquent as Ted, and I am Central alumni. But that's still in the MAC, right? Like, we're all good. We're friends. Like, so over the next 15 minutes, we have a few goals to go through. We're going to go through some of the basics, how to choose your plan, and then some of the tools that you may not be familiar with and how you can use those. So I am not going to go through these because we are a little short on time, but the slides are going to be posted as far as looking at these as a resource in the future. One of the quick things that I do want to point out on these terms is the premium or the payroll contribution. So I think sometimes people get confused on, I'm paying on my paycheck every other week, or every month, or however you get paid, and it's not really a part of the actual benefit design. So sometimes people think, in their head, I pay a lot of money for my insurance, and why is the plan not kicking in sooner? So a couple terms there that might be helpful for all of you to look at in the future. I do like this slide, and I think it can be confusing on how your plan actually works. So one thing, no matter what plan you're on, preventative is covered at 100%. You can take that right out of the mind thought as far as, how does that plan? After your preventative, though, or outside of your preventative, day one, January 1st, your deductible starts over. So you go in for a medical service, and this might be a hospitalization, any medical labs or tests, and you're going to pay $1,000 first, or the blue part, I should say. Once you meet that $1,000 or $2,000 per family, then you're going to have a co-insurance of 10%. And so my blue bar probably actually isn't the right size here, but you pay 10%, Western pays 90%. And then once you hit that out-of-pocket maximum of $2,000, $4,000, the plan kicks in at 100% for the rest of the calendar year. Now that could be a combination, again, of one person, if you're a single. If you're a family coverage, that could be maybe three of you collectively meet that $4,000 out of pocket, and it could be in a number of different combinations. So I think most of you are probably familiar with looking at this as far as, you go home and you put the plans side by side, what plan is the best one for our family. One of the things I do think is really convenient, or a good tool to use, is looking at your last year's healthcare cost. So if you're like me, I probably have the same claims year after year. I probably go to the office visits, maybe 2 a year. I have a few prescriptions that I take on a regular basis. But that really is a good indicator of which plan is a better fit. You also obviously want to look at the network, make sure that you're comfortable with the plan that you had last year as far as if you're thinking of making a change. And then the last thing to consider is also if you have anything planned. So maybe you have a hip replacement or a surgery, something coming up that you were able to actually schedule. Obviously, that would come into play as far as which plan is a better fit for you. I'm going to go through these at a pretty high level as far as the differences in a PPO and an HMO. So overall, or on average, a PPO is going to cost you a little bit more money out of your paycheck, but it is going to give you some more flexibilities. So, for example, you don't have a PCP that you have to actually designate on the PPO plan, meaning that I don't have to say, yes, my primary care doctor is Dr. Smith. I can really change that anytime I want to. We still always encourage, though, having a primary care physician because they really are the driver of your care. And so even though you don't designate one, hopefully you have a relationship with one. You can have an internet out-of-network benefit, and there's no actual referrals. So if you wanted to go to a specialist, you don't have to, talk to your doctor, get that referral in place. Although there are specialists like a neurologist that you're probably not just going to call and make an appointment. They would want, obviously, a referral in place to see them. An HMO does have a primary care that they really use as a gatekeeper. So anytime that you're going to have a specialist visit, your primary care would really kind of coordinate that. So it typically is a little bit less money out of your paycheck. You will still have coverage as far as urgent and emergent care out of Michigan or out of the network. And while you're traveling, you also can access the Blue Cross network of that state. So you wouldn't need a referral for that per se, but we always recommend just kind of talking to your primary care after the fact if you were to see any out-of-state care. What we're going to spend a little bit more time on is the member account. So this is just kind of a great stat to share. All the colors in the highlighted in green, I'm not very good at this pointer. Okay. All those greens are actually Western stats, and then the ones beside them are actually kind of our large book of business or large groups that we also work with. So you can see Western has 82.5% of your people are actually using the portal or the app, which is great. So you're doing much better than the benchmark here of 62. So if you're not part of the 82% though, and you're not using the app or the portal, really easy ways to actually do that. You can go onto our website, bcbsm.com/register. You can go on and download it on your app, Google Play Store or your Apple Store. And you can also text 22764. And so you can sign up any of the three ways. But like I said, most of you are probably in the room or have already done that or are using it currently. So we have changed our portal around quite a bit in the past few years. I think it's actually really user-friendly now. Hopefully you do as well. You can review any of your coverages, and again, that'd be high-level information. Look at where you're at with your deductible, your coinsurance, out-of-pocket. And then there's also a virtual ID card, so if you're up at the pharmacy or your provider and you forgot your card, or maybe you just don't want to carry it, you can show them, or you can actually text or email it right from the app. It's really easy. If you go up on, if you look at the actual top of our portal here, and the different options that you have, if you go into claims, what's first going to pop up is kind of on the app there in the picture is a little pie chart, and it shows where you're at with your deductible for the year. It will also pull up the last 10 claims that your contract has incurred for you to have kind of a quick reference. But there's a lot of nice features over here to filter, so you can filter by the year, by the provider, by the patient. And then any of those claims you can click on, and you can actually download a copy of your explanation of benefits. Or if for some reason a claim denied, you can actually appeal it right there too, and it's a really easy process. I had to do it myself last year. One of the new enhancements that we did to the portal just recently is we added what internally we call a pizza tracker. So there's a pre-authorization right here under my coverage. So if you had a service, for example, physical therapy, MRIs, those all require pre-authorization. What we found from feedback is really like our members are feeling, sometimes they get caught in the middle and they don't know where the process is at. So any medical pre-authorization would be on here, and then as it kind of moves through the system and advances, you'd actually get a notification that you have a message in your app. If you're looking for a new provider, or maybe you have a new indication, new symptoms, things of that nature, you can do it on their provider search. You can look multiple ways, by name, by different type. And the nice thing is when you do pull up that list, you can go through and it will show lots of different things like where they went to college, what languages they speak, if they're accepting new patients, lots of information like that that might help you make a decision as far as what provider you want to see. So we do like to remind you that you do have different choices for care. Obviously, most of your care probably is going to be at your primary care physician and where it usually starts. I like to remind people of the 24/7 nurse line because I think a lot of people don't know that benefit. That is a Blue Cross nurse behind the line. It's free of charge. And one of the really nice things I found from talking to people that a lot of times if you're a new parent and you have a baby and a very young child, middle of the night, do we need to go to the emergency room? Can it wait till tomorrow? They'll actually walk you through signs and symptoms and then make that recommendation. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. As far as looking at the cost or the wait time, obviously it's much better or cheaper for you if you're at your primary care physician or even the online visits, which we'll talk about a little bit about later. But the walk-in clinics, obviously an emergency room, there are times when that is needed. If you know you have a service coming up, we do have the ability to go through, there's over 1,700 different procedures that you can actually price out. So it is nice when you're planning, because a lot of people don't realize that different hospitals charge different amounts. And it's not really any correlation to quality of care. So just because it's the most expensive doesn't mean it's necessarily better. If you put in your service that you're going to go for, then it will bring up, the search will bring up different providers in your area. And then if you click into them, it will also show you the estimates of cost. As Ted mentioned, the prescription drugs are something probably most of us are on, and they're definitely a huge driver in cost. So on the portal, you can actually, you can price them out, and then you can also track them. But one of the nice things that you can do if you are on an expensive drug and you want to see maybe there's a drug out there that would work as well, but it's cheaper, you can actually compare drug costs from the same therapeutic class. Another thing is if you're actually filling through the mail order, you can track that as well. And you can see any of your past historical claims too through your pharmacy. One of the things that you may not be familiar with is virtual care. This is powered through Teladoc. And so you have access to medical providers 24/7. You do also have access to behavioral health providers, but it's not 24/7. I think it's 8 to 5 or 6. I'm sorry, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm way off on the time. What's really nice about this, obviously, it's a convenience factor hugely. It's also typically cheaper than going into your medical brick and mortar. They will prescribe prescriptions. It's really great for, my husband just used it for poison ivy. I've used it before. Pink eye is a really good one. Anytime that you want like an antibiotic. What it's not really meant for though is anything that you're a chronic condition. So you wouldn't call them for, a blood pressure medication. Condition management. So you have another great program through Teladoc. If you have diabetes, high blood pressure, or pre-diabetic, it's a really great resource. It's no cost out of your pocket. Diabetes is the one I like to look at the most just because I think it's super convenient. You get a glucometer delivered to your home, and then there's a coach team behind it, and they send you all the test strips for free right to your house. So these are great programs if any of you aren't enrolled. I know a lot of you are because we do see utilization on that. So Hinge Health is also another great resource that you guys have access to, again, at no cost to you. It is a virtual physical therapy. So not only is it at no cost to you, but it's also much more convenient, I think, for many of us as far as not getting in the car and what mode you prefer. And then we have some helpful numbers for you as well. Again, your customer service line, 24/7 nurse, and a few others. So I know these slides are going to be posted. I think I went through this pretty quickly. I hope I made the time. And then we're going to be around for questions too. So.
Okay, thank you, Ted and Tani, very much for the presentations. Now, as you have questions about the presentations for our presenters, now is the time to do that. We're going to do, as we've done in the past, go with hopefully raising hands and getting our staff to come around and bring microphones. I'll share the one that I have right now too. What's a little bit different is I'm not sure how we're going to designate the folks that are in the side room, but we'll, pardon me? We'll figure out a way to get that information and find out their questions too. So do we have questions from the crowd?
There we go. So I have a question. Ted, you mentioned very briefly about the increased cost of long-term effects of neglecting your dental care. I know myself and almost everybody I talk to recently has run into where their dentist no longer will participate or whatever with Blue Cross. Every time you go, you have to pay out of your pocket and wait for your reimbursement. And they tell me that it's because they're tired of arguing with Blue Cross about what Blue Cross thinks their services should cost as opposed to what they think it should cost, or various other factors. So my question is there some option other than ignoring it? Because like I talked to somebody the other day that went and had to have a crown put in. It was $1,350. Okay, not everybody's got $1,350 sitting in their pocket while they're waiting for a check to come from Blue Cross. Now, I will say they generally come fairly quickly, so I'm not bashing that part of it. But for the people who have been neglecting it because they don't have, I just went and all I had was cleaning and x-rays. It was $355. Again, not everybody's got an extra $350. What options are available to people other than neglecting it to stop them from neglecting it?
I'll try to answer that in a couple of different ways. First, we know about the dental issue. It was brought to our attention not too long ago, maybe a year or so, and we are working with Blue Cross Blue Shield to do network adequacy tests, and that's what they do. And they do it periodically, right? And it can be for dental vision, it can be for PCPs, it can be for specialists, right? They try to make sure that there's a reasonable amount of certain types of doctors in a geographic area. You're a little bit unique out here because there are people who can live in rural areas, and that gets tricky. So they understand that there's been some issues in contracting. They've looked at the network to see where there's inadequacies, and they're doing their best to try to recruit new dentists into the network. I know personally, I think there's some studies about this too that show that people never want to change their dentist. It's worse than almost any other doctor in their whole life. They don't like to change their dentists. It's always an option because the adequacy just makes sure that there's like 1, 2, 3 dentists within a 5, 10, 15-mile radius. So keep checking to see if there's a dentist in your area that would work for you. I know it's not ideal. I don't want to change my dentist either, but that's something that you could do. I know they're working on it. If, in fact, it becomes such a problem that we don't think the network is, or Blue Cross Blue Shield's adequately looking at the network to make sure it fits for everybody, then you can always see if there's another carrier that could do it better, like a MetLife or some of the other people that are in that business. So that's a possibility, but we know about the issue and we're trying to work on it with Blue Cross Blue Shield. I don't know if you want to take a shot at it.
Yeah, I just want to share that this is definitely a problem. It's not just Kalamazoo area, it's all of Michigan. And it's actually not just Blue Cross Dental, it's all of dentists. So what we've kind of figured out or found out is that there are more patients or more need than dentists that we have. Also, I know hygienists are in a real shortage, and we're not producing enough hygienists in Michigan to keep, the demand where it should be. So we are working with the providers. I know there's also a consultant who is kind of going around to the different dentists and encouraging them to depar with all insurance. So none of these things help, and kind of we're all in the same boat. We are working, though, with our provider team as far as, there's a real balance between increasing the payment that we pay the providers and then also keeping costs down. So we are looking at increasing the payments and trying to keep the dentists happy and in network as much as we can, but there is a balance there. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, and truthfully, I think 3 people in my office just recently have told me that they've had to change dentists as well. So it definitely is a current problem that we're working on. It's not a great solution, or there's no I don't have any great magic pill or unicorn right now, but it is something we are working on and we're definitely addressing.
Do I need this really? Okay. The insurance company going against the dentist, who are they comparing it with? If the dentist say it should cost X amount of money, why isn't the insurance company paying for it? Why are they arguing with the dentist?
Again, it's kind of a fine line, though, because, if we pay to charge, whatever, or even on the medical side, if we paid to charges and we didn't have what we call an approved amount, your cost would be exponentially higher. So it is really a balance of finding the right cost or the right amount to pay a provider while also trying to keep your costs low.
Good morning. I have a question. So I just happened to look up all of the dentists in our area at some point this week, and a majority of the dentists that are offered to us are also offered at low cost for the community, so it's harder for us to get into it. It happens to be the Family Health Center, and that's where over half of our dentists are through the Family Health Center, and then they're through like the bigger box dentists like Aspen, Destiny, and Dreams. There are very few private practices in there. So is there a reason why it's going that way, that we have to use like government subsidized dental care, or that we have to use the big box companies with very low ratings versus private?
I don't have a great answer to this. Again, it's just part of the current problem that we have right now with as far as shortage. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I don't have a great answer for you on this right now. It's definitely a problem that we're aware of.
Can you get me an answer? I would like one. I pay my insurance.
I can definitely pull a network provider directory for you, and I can talk to our team as far as getting an update on if we're making any progress in this area.
Have you done?
I have a card. We can talk afterwards offline.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have any questions from the overflow room? Okay, thanks again to our presenters. A couple of reminders. Benefit Expo, November 4th. You're all going to come, right? Benefit Expo, November 4th. Appreciate everybody's attendance, and it's been good, and we always try to make changes, do different things, and based on the feedback. The other thing, you will be getting a packet shortly mailed to you that will include announcements for the Benefit Expo, open enrollment, and other information. So be watching your mailboxes. Thank you very much, folks.